Hello, my dear students. Here we are to talk about different structures and different, let's say, forms that we use in English grammar. So today we will start lesson number 1, in which we are going to see here uh, some things which are, of course, well known for you. That is the use of the different tenses in English plus time phrases. That is, those time phrases we use for specific tenses. And we will focus attention as well on the perfect aspect. So one thing is tense, another is aspect, and sometimes we join them together. Well, welcome here. I'm going to speak a little bit in Spanish so that we understand each other. Okay? Estamos en nuestra primera lección, la cual, bueno, pues como ustedes conocen, va a centrarse en la gramática del inglés. En este caso, pues vamos a tener la posibilidad de valorar las diferentes formas en las cuales nosotros expresamos tiempo en el verbo en inglés. También para estos tiempos verbales que denominamos en inglés tenses, pues vamos a utilizar frases que expresan tiempo relacionado con ello. Y también vamos a dedicarle un espacio a el aspecto perfectivo en inglés, que muchas veces se usa junto con la idea de tiempo y ambos pues son categorías importantes dentro de la gramática. Bien, esto ya es conocido por ustedes y lo que vamos a hacer es una especie de review, o sea, un sumario general, un recordatorio general de todos estos tiempos que a través de el periodo de estudio que ustedes han tenido, pues han podido precisar, practicar y utilizar en su comunicación. Bienvenido y vamos a comenzar. Recuerden que a cada tiempo pues le corresponde también una estructura y debemos de tener en nuestra mente qué uso le damos a ese tiempo, para qué lo usamos y qué forma o estructura va a adquirir para podernos expresar, que no coincide, por supuesto, con las características del español. Por lo tanto, debemos centrarnos tanto en el uso como en la estructura para poder ser suficientes en nuestra clase de gramática. Y por supuesto, en todo lo que hacemos, como leemos, como hablamos, como escribimos, porque la gramática va a ser la base y junto al vocabulario, pues son los dos elementos que nos permiten hablar y comunicarnos en cualquier idioma. Bien, en este momento voy a compartir con ustedes pues un material en el cual podríamos valorar estos elementos. All right? So I'm going to share with you right now the, let's say, the presentation of the different uses we have for the first tense. In this case, you can see it, it is the present simple. Well, we use the present simple for 4 different reasons. First, when we talk about something that always is true, it is always true, okay? So we say 2 and 2 make 4, right? The sun also rises. It's true. We, one day and after another, will have the sun going to the sky up to the horizon. Then we also use it for permanent situations, like this one. I live in London. But you could also say that it's permanent. You are Ecuadorians. So you use the present for that, let's say, example. I can also say that I live here in Santo Domingo, and it is a permanent situation. You study in Uniandes University. And this is a permanent situation. I know you may change in the future, but it's permanent now. Then we could also use it for a short action right now. We say he takes the ball and scores a goal. This is a short action that it's happening right now. And notice that we are using the adverb or the time expression now for this present simple, okay? Then it could also be used for habits like this one. When you do an activity every time, constantly, and you are accustomed to it. Then you say, she plays tennis every Tuesday. Well, notice that it is one Tuesday and another and another, and it is repeated all the time. It's a habit. So we say it. She plays tennis every Tuesday, like you every day eat, or you, let's say, take a shower. So that's why you use the present simple. You say, I take a shower. You take a shower. Then we use this because it is a habit. So these are the 4 reasons. Always true, permanent situations, short actions now, and habits. Okay, now let us analyze this in the structure. I am going to share with you right now the structure that we use for the simple present or present simple. Now I am going to share this structure with you right now, okay? Let's see, here you can see the simple present, okay? That is, for facts or things that are generally accurate, that they are always true, we say orangutans eat fruit and leaves. The earth doesn't move around the moon. The earth moves around the sun. Where do polar bears live? So notice that we use it for questions, negative answers or negative sentences, and normally for positive sentences or statements, okay? Then the form we use here, it's very simple. In affirmative, you use the subject. The subject, it could be John, Peter, but we represent those persons or things with different pronouns. The first one, it's me, the person who speaks. The second, it's you, the person to whom we speak. And the third person, it's the person we may talk about. It could be he, she, they, or it, okay? Then, in the future, you and me could be we, because we include the person who speaks and the person that listens, okay? And in the future for you, when you are different students, like right now, well, we use you as well. So you know that because you study that, but it's just for remembering these things. Well, the affirmative sentence in the form will be the subject, I, you, we, or they, and then the verb. That is, live, study, work. They do not use any other, let's say, mark. So they are verb, okay? So that's why we say this is a verb infinitive. I live, you live, we live, they live. And if it is the third person singular, only for the third person singular, we say he lives, she lives, it lives. So notice how we work in the simple present. If it is negative, for the first group, I, you, we, and they, we use don't, the auxiliary do with the not particle, and then we add the verb. In this case, we say, I don't live in Spain. I don't live in Japan. You don't live in Russia. They don't live in Chile. They live, we live, all of us live in Ecuador. Okay? So this is negative because we use the auxiliary do plus the negative particle. But for the third person singular, this auxiliary will take the S, as you know. So instead of saying do, we say does, and we add the negative form. We say he doesn't live, she doesn't live, or it doesn't live. Okay? You know that in English we have three different persons for the, let's say, the third person singular. That is for masculine, for feminine, and when it's neutral, according to the sex, we distinguish in object or let's say animals, including babies, because we don't know the sex of a baby. That's why we refer to a baby in that case as it. As interrogative, we use the same auxiliaries, but we will use the auxiliary in the first position, then the subject, then the main verb. So that's why we say, do I live near here? Do you live near here? Do they live near here? And if it is the third person singular, the auxiliary, as you know, should be does. In this case, we will say, does she, does he, does it live near here? And for these questions, we always answer with a yes or no response. That's why we say, yes, I or you or they live here. But to shorten that sentence, we say, yes, I do. Yes, we do. Yes, they do. Okay? That's why the short answer would be yes, the subject, and then the auxiliary. The same happens with the third person singular. Instead of using I, you, we, and they, we're going to use he, she, or it, and then the auxiliary does. We say, yes, he does. Yes, she does. Okay? But if it is negative, the short answer, we are going to say, no, I don't. No, you don't. No, they don't. No, we don't. And if it is negative for the third person singular, we are going to say no, he doesn't, or no, she doesn't, or no, he doesn't. Then the time phrase that we use for these forms are just these: every week, frequently, from time to time, generally, never, nowadays, often, time, and again. Well, this is the form that we are going to use for the simple present. Bueno, como han visto hasta aquí, hemos explicado el tiempo más sencillo, el más usado en el idioma inglés y también en otros idiomas. Por supuesto, hemos dicho que podríamos encontrarlo de forma afirmativa, de forma negativa e interrogativa y responder a estas preguntas de sí o no, pues de forma abreviada, no repitiendo toda la oración. Bien, aquí como ustedes ven, seguimos esta estructura muy simple. El sujeto, luego del sujeto vendría el verbo que para la tercera persona tomaría la S, en el caso de las oraciones afirmativas. En el caso de las negativas, pues tendríamos el sujeto, el auxiliar con la partícula not, que casi siempre la unimos, decimos don't o decimos doesn't, porque estamos en presente, y posterior al auxiliar, pues usamos el verbo en su forma de infinitivo sin ninguna otra marca. Bien, En este caso, el verbo es vivir, live, por lo tanto, lo usamos tal cual el verbo se representa en el infinitivo, pero en este caso sin el to. Cuando hacemos la pregunta interrogativa, pues primero ponemos el auxiliar, luego el sujeto, le sigue el verbo y después cualquier expresión de tiempo, cualquier otro adverbial que usemos, o sea, frase adverbial que usemos para denotar lugar, modo, etc. Lo mismo con la interrogativa para la tercera persona. Usamos el auxiliar, luego he, she or it, el verbo en su forma de infinitivo sin el to y luego cualquier complemento. Para la respuesta, como ya vieron, pues solo decimos sí o no y luego el sujeto y si es positivo, el auxiliar en forma positiva, el do para la primera, segunda persona y todos los plurales y el does para la tercera persona del singular, solo para la tercera persona del singular. Mientras que si es negativo, pues decimos no, el sujeto, y luego el auxiliar do con la forma not. Bien, o sea, la partícula negativa que muchas veces aparece unida a ese verbo auxiliar. Y aquí, como pueden ver, tenemos una serie de frases que expresan tiempo y en este caso son las frases que vamos a utilizar con el tiempo simple. Hasta aquí nuestra parte del tiempo simple. Vamos a continuar con la siguiente. Okay, then we are going to continue with our next tense. Okay, so I'm going to share with you the same, let's say, analysis we have with the uses of the different tenses. Okay, we are going to get back for that future in using the simple form. But we also have the present continuous. When do we use the present continuous? Well, first, when we unfinished actions at the moment we speak. So we have an action or some actions that are unfinished right now. When we just refer to situations that are temporary, when we have habits which are also temporary, and we will talk about habits which are unknown, and for referring to plans in the future which are set, which are definite. Then, for instance, we have the example for each of these. When the action is unfinished, we say, I am working at the moment. That is, I am doing that action and I will continue into the future, but I am doing that right now. In this moment, I am talking to you. In this moment, I am teaching you grammar. So I am working at the moment. And with temporary situations, we say, I am living in London. Well, I am not living in London, but suppose that we go for vacations on, let's say, a given holidays, and we stay there for a period of time. But we say, I am staying in a hotel. I am staying in this place, okay? Because I will move later. Then temporary habits, as he's eating a lot these days. So it's a habit because he's doing this constantly, but this is the way he's doing that. This is specifically the way he's eating. Then he's eating a lot, not just fruits or vegetables. He's eating a lot, everything these days. Maybe he is anxious, okay? Then, for that reason, we use it with the present continuous. And then we also use it when it's annoying, the habits. So we say, you are forever losing your keys because they are lost. and you cannot find them now. So you are forever losing your keys, or perhaps you are using them in a wrong position, in a wrong, let's say, way. And of course, in that way, you will lose your keys. But this will be a permanent action later. Now it is an annoying habit, the way you use that. So you are forever losing your keys. Notice that I am warning you because of that, okay? And for plans in the future, we say, I am meeting my father tomorrow. Well, notice that this is a case in which I have decided, okay, I have that in mind. I have decided that I am going to do that. And there is no way to, let's say, forget about that. I am going to complete that action. I'm meeting my father tomorrow, okay? But notice that we can use with these expressions different, let's say, phrases. For instance, I am working at the moment, but I can say I am working now because it's right now. We can say in this case, I am living in London at the moment. I am living in London for a few weeks. I am living in London for a couple of months. So notice that I could also use these expressions to specify the time in which the action is happening. Then for a temporary habit, we can say he's eating a lot these days. So we could also say he's eating a lot at the moment. He's eating a lot for a period of time, that is today and perhaps the following days, and maybe he started in the past. Then you could also say you are forever losing your keys, or you are always losing your keys, or you are constantly using your keys. For this expression, normally we are going to use a kind of adverb that could be, in a way, tied to the verb that we are using, not at the end as in those cases, okay? Then finally, for predicting something that we had planned and that is going to happen anyway, we can say, I am meeting my father tomorrow, but we could also say, I am meeting my father uh, later, or I'm meeting my father at a given time. And then I can say at 7 p.m. or perhaps at 12, I don't know, okay? Tonight, okay? Next month. It could be, I am meeting my father next month because I am living here right now, but I'm going to fly to the place in which my father lives. You see? Then this is the present continuous, but which is the form that we use with the present continuous? It's quite simple. Let's see now the form for this present continuous. As you have analyzed and you know, well, for this expression, we will always use a given form in present for the verb be, and the main verb with a given form, which is constantly with ing. That is, we use it, as you can see, to talk about things that are happening now. Is watching, the verb be, that corresponds to the person, and then the main verb watch with ing. The same is going to happen with the rest. Things are happening around now, but not necessarily right now. It could be Vic is traveling this year. That is something that it's going to happen in the future. We had planned that. And for current trends and changing situations, we could also say the same. Like fewer people are buying cars this year. You can see these are some examples of the present continuous. Well, the form is, as I said, the subject, I, you, we, they, he, she, or it, with the form that corresponds with the verb be. I am, you are, we are, they are, he is, she is, or it is. That is, first person singular, am. Second or plural forms, are. And third person singular, is. And after that, you can see the verb with ing. I am living. I am living here right now. Now, negative. Negative form, it could be just with the negation together with the form of the verb be that we had explained for the affirmative. So the only thing that I had to do is to include the not particle with the verb be. And then I am saying, I am not living in China. You are not living on the moon. He is, or she is, or it is not living far from this place, okay? Then, if we are going to ask using this form, we just use the same structure we explained for the simple present, that is the auxiliary first. In this case, the auxiliary is the verb be, then the subject, and after that, the form of the verb with ing. So we say, am I living here? Are you, are we, are they living here? Is he, is she, is it living here? So notice that in this case, we use first the form of the verb be, the subject, and the verb with ing, and then any other complement. For this, as you know, this is a question in which we only expect a yes or no response. We will have a short answer as well. So if it is positive, we say, yes, I am. Yes, we are. Yes, they are. Yes, he is. Yes, it is. Then if it is negative, we say, no, I am not. Or no, we aren't. Or we are not. No, they aren't. Or they are not. Or no, he isn't. Or no, he is not. So notice that we can say together the form of the verb be with the negative particle, or we could say separately. But in the case of the first person singular, we cannot do it. We have to say, yes, I am not. Okay. In this, no, I am not. I cannot say yes, sorry. No, I am not. If I say yes, I am, nothing else. Okay, sorry. Then the time phrases that we use are here. At present, at the moment, at this moment in time, currently, now, or this week. So we can also say it, I am living in Ecuador, or I am living in Santo Domingo at present, or now, or I am currently living in Santo Domingo. Okay, good. Then, and let's wait. Let's take a break to analyze the simple past and other forms in the past. Okay, so let's stop right now this so that you may analyze the use of the present, and notice that there is something that it's repeated in these structures, and they are always referring to the moment in which we speak. Okay, so that's the present. In Spanish, bueno, hemos visto la forma y el uso de el presente continuo, que se refiere al uso de la acción que está transcurriendo en este momento y que, por supuesto, va a verse con el auxiliar que le corresponde a cada persona según el verbo be y el verbo principal con la ing. Siempre va a ocurrir así, y como lo vieron, pues esta estructura es la que refiere el presente continuo, en el que siempre vamos a ver la acción como un proceso. Bien, entonces vamos a tener una pequeña pausa solo para analizar lo que hablamos y pasar al pasado justo ahora. Muy bien. Vamos entonces a continuar con el pasado. All right. Let's see right now the different forms we have for the past. First, let us analyze when we use the past, what's going to happen. Then, in this case, we have to go directly to this, let's say, simple past. Okay, when do we use this? First, when we are going to talk about a time which is finished, the moment that the action happened had passed. Then when the time period it's finished, we say, Leonardo painted the Mona Lisa, or I went to the cinema yesterday. So it's an action that happened in the past. We could also details of news. For instance, I hurt my leg. I fell off a ladder. So in that case, well, the past it's joined with two different ideas. Then it's something that happened in the past, but the action, in fact, I felt from a ladder or off a ladder, better say, happened before. Then, as a result of that, something happened with my leg, okay? But as you can see, I've hurt my leg. It's another action that maybe the consequence it's feeling right now in the person who is speaking, okay? So we are going to explain this present perfect later on because we should also refer to the aspect perfectiveness. Then in that case, we use I fell off a ladder together with a present perfect. I will explain that later. Then we could also say actions in a story. He sat down and ordered a coffee or any other thing that had happened. Or when it is an imaginary situation or things which are not real, in which we are going to use the if clause and we say, if I won the lottery, I would buy a house. You know, you may think this is a given conditional sentence, and for that, we are going to use the simple past. Let's see right now the structure for these, let's say, uses of the verb. Let us, again, try to share with you some sentences in which you understand what we have to explain. Okay, then here first, I'm going to show you the uses according to your book. We use it to talk about finished actions, which had happened in the past, of course. And there is a clear link to a specific time in the past. For instance, he finished the movie script 2 hours ago. They didn't go to the movies last night. Did you meet Alex earlier? In all those sentences, we find the action happened in the past. They finished the actions. Then we use the simple past to talk about someone's life when they are dead as well. He fought as a soldier in a civil war. So that's an example of a given person who had done something in the past, okay? But he is dead. Well, the form, it's quite simple. We only use a given form, okay, for all persons. I, you, he, she, it, we, they, worked. Notice that we only add ed when the verb is regular. But if it is irregular, we had to use the form that we find for the past. For instance, we say in the present, I know, but in the past, as this is irregular, we say, I knew. But knew will be for all those subjects. I knew, you knew, he knew, they knew, etc. When it is negative, we are going to use again the auxiliary do, but in this case, in its past form. So we say didn't because it's negative. And we say I, you, they, etc. didn't work. That's something in the past. Of course, for this, I will need to complete the idea with one-time phrase. So when he didn't work, I should refer to that to understand the situation, because I know everybody in different places works. For instance, we could say he didn't work yesterday because yesterday was a holiday and then he didn't work. Or perhaps he was free and he didn't work. Or maybe it was Sunday and he didn't work yesterday. But I could also say he didn't work on Sunday. And you can see that we may refer to other time phrases to refer to this situation. If it is an interrogative question, then we will use the auxiliary. Notice that the auxiliary is for all subjects. There is no change according to the subject. And then we will use the verb in its verb infinitive, that is, without to. The answer, it should be a short answer as well. Yes, I, you, they, etc. Any of them did. And if it is negative, I, you, he, she, they, etc. didn't. Okay? Then I can say, did you work yesterday? If it is positive, you say, yes, I did. If it is negative, you will say, no, I didn't. That's the way. Okay? Then that's the simple form. Notice that it's the same for all persons. And when it is a past continuous, we are going to refer to actions that were seen in the past in its progress. So we use it to describe actions and situations in progress at a particular time in the past, or to describe a background event that was in progress around the time of the main verb or the main event. Or we use it in the past continuous with the simple past to talk about two different actions, okay? One was longer than the other, and they happen in the same, let's say, more or less in the same amount of time in the past. We can join these tenses with the words when or while when we are speaking. Then this is an example. Tanya was waiting at the station when the rest of the climbing team arrived. While the team was getting off the train, she ran to meet them. So notice that she was waiting, that happened first, and it was taking longer than the rest. She was waiting for a long time. Then the team was getting off the train. It was also a process that have taken a period of time. But when that happened, she ran. She ran to meet them. That's why, in this case, we use the past, and in the rest, we use the past continuous. Then, which is the form to use this structure? Well, first, we use the affirmative with the verb be in the past. For the first, the third person singular only was. So we say I was, he was, she was, it was. And for the rest of the persons, we use were. And when we have analyzed that and we have decided that this is the form, we added the verb, the main verb that gives us the idea of the action with ing, as I explained for the present. So notice that we say, I was working last week, or she was working last week, right? They were working last week. In this case, we had to use were. The same, you were working last week. So notice that the only thing that will change would be the verb be, in which we express the person. Then the negative will coincide with the same persons that we explained for the affirmative, and we only add the negative form. I wasn't working last week. It wasn't working last week. But notice that I could also refer to the specific thing. Ned was not working last week. That's me, okay? Or I could also say that the telephone was not working last week. You see? So these are just pronouns that refer to specific objects or persons. Then, you, we, or they weren't working last week. When you are going to ask the interrogative question, we say, was I, was he, was she, was it working last week? Were you, were they, were we working last week? So notice that in this case, we are going to ask the question beginning with the verb be that correspond to the person, then the person, that is the subject of the sentence, then the verb with ing, and then the complements. That's the structure. And which are the possible answers? Again, yes or no. You say, yes, I was. No, I wasn't. Or yes, she was. No, he wasn't. Okay? Then notice that in that case, we just use a short answer. But when we are going to, let's say, create a long sentence, we may use time phrases like this. As the time, as, at the time, as, at the time, while, when, and something similar to this that we need for the process of doing something, like in this one last week, okay? Then, we also have other forms that will reflect the use of a given concept, a given notion of time. That is the future, the action that's going to happen. So we have one idea for the past, one idea for the present, and one idea for the future. They will use, of course, different structures, and they will have different uses. I will let the perfectiveness for the last moment. Then I'm going to explain the present, at present, the future tense. Will, it's used to talk about a prediction, a decision that had been made at the time of speaking, at this moment, or a future event in, a future event when we use an if or when clause, okay? That is, as a prediction, I'll expect he'll be here in a minute. I'll expect it will rain in Riobamba, okay? So these are different things that we make the prediction because of different reasons that we may predict the future. Then a decision that we, let's say, have taken at the moment of speaking, we say, I can start my car. Don't worry, I'll give you a ride. So at this moment in which I cannot, let's say, turn my car on, well, somebody else is listening to me, but at this moment, he or she decided to give me a ride. So that's the idea at this moment. Right now, I may have an idea and I can express that idea that, for instance, you will have an exercise later concerning this. You see, because I didn't plan that. I have the idea at the moment of speaking. So I will say, you will have an exam in our next meeting. That could be, okay? But it's just an example, don't worry. Then a future event in which we have an if or a when clause, we say if the population increases, there won't be enough food. So for that, we have the use of will. In the case of another form that we use to express future, we say going to. For this, we use the form of the be that corresponds to he, she, it, I, you, to the person that you know that they are different, and then going to plus the main verb in its base form, bare infinitive. So, for instance, we say, I am going to speak about, let's say, the present right now. That is something that I'm going to do. Well, when do we use that? To talk about a plan or intention for the future. Because I have that plan. I'm going to talk about the different tenses. In fact, I am speaking about the different tenses right now. Well, this has been decided before the moment of speaking. So it was planned. The person had that idea in his or her mind. And we could also say it to make a prediction about the future based on a present information. Which are these examples? Well, when I am in Chile, I'm going to travel to Arica. Or my team is playing very poorly. As a result of that, they are going to lose this game. So notice that in these cases, of course, we have, let's say, a prediction or a plan in the future, but this is something that's going to happen. That's why we use a different form to express this kind of future, okay? Then we also have the present continuous, some cases, in some moments, in some sentences, we use the present continuous to express this notion of future. Let's see, first, for an intention or previously made decision or arrangement, but which is very strong. So we say, they aren't coming to the theater, okay? So it was a decision and we know they are not coming to the theater. A formal arrangement, of course, in this case we say they are coming at noon. That's something which is very strong. Or we often use the present continuous with a specific time in the future. And in that case, we explain that it is not happening now because it is a present continuous. It's something that we had planned in the future. For instance, I am traveling to New York on Thursday evening. So that's something that is going to happen because we had planned that. And then in the future, we also have the future continuous to talk about an action that we know it will be in its progress. It will be seen not as a single event, but as a repeated event during a period of time. For instance, in 5 years, everyone will be using HD phones. This time tomorrow, I won't be sitting in this office. What will scientists be researching 10 years from now? Well, For those examples, we will use the future continuous, in which we are going to use the will form, the form of the verb be, and the main verb with ing, as we explained before. And you know, because you have studied this before in your previous levels. Then we also have the future continuous form. The future continuous form, it's, well, the structure in which we express all those, let's say, examples that I explained about the notion of future time. For instance, the future continuous form will be I, you, we, etc. And then will, and then the verb be, which is always be after a modal verb. We had to use be or any other verb in its simple form, and then the main verb with ing. So it's permanent. We always use will and we always use be because it's a future continuous form. If it is interrogative, we are not going to, let's say, move to the beginning will and be. We will only move one of the two auxiliary, that is will, the first one. We will say, will I, will you, will she be doing something, okay? Then the negative sentence will be I, you, etc. Any of them won't be doing that action. That is, in the future, they will not do that action, or we will not be doing that action. That is, in that case, we are going to use the form of the will in the negative, which is contracted as won't. So it's very frequently found won't and rarely found will not. Then the form of the verb be, and after that, the main verb with ing. The answer for this negative form will be yes, I, you, they, etc. will. So this is the affirmative short answer. The negative will be no, I, you, they, we, etc. won't. Okay, so notice that all these subjects are not together in a sentence. You will only use one of them. Okay, so it could be yes, I will, or no, you will not or won't. Okay, then the time phrase that you are going to use for all these forms in the future will be next week, in 3 days, or in 3 weeks, in 3 years, that depends. Soon, on Friday, in a while, in the coming days, or in the coming months, in the coming years, in the long term, sooner or later, this weekend. But notice that this weekend, it's not now. It's going to be in the coming days, okay? That is in the future. That's it. So these are the other, let's say, notions. Notice that we have 3 different notions of time expressed through tenses. That is past, present, and future. Something that's going to happen, okay? So past had already happened. Present, at this moment, right now. And future, it will come to the present, okay? Now, let's see the perfect aspect, which is together with the idea of the notion of time, in this case, expressed through tenses, okay? So, the first one, when we are talking about aspect, will be the present perfect, okay? But before I start talking about the aspect, let me explain everything in Spanish so that you understand these structures. Hemos hablado del pasado y hemos hablado del futuro, como los dos tiempos que están condicionados por el momento en que hablamos, que es el verdadero tiempo que vivimos. El tiempo pasado es una noción que ya sucedió, el tiempo futuro es algo que planificamos, proyectamos y que debe venir, pero el que es real es el momento en el que estamos. Este es el tiempo presente. En el tiempo pasado, pues hemos visto el tiempo simple. Todas las personas con los verbos regulares van a usar la misma forma y para negar utilizan el auxiliar didn't, para preguntar utilizan el auxiliar did. Solo eso. En el caso de los tiempos pasados, simple, que utilizan verbos no regulares, irregulares, pues utilizarían la forma que tiene cada verbo. Si se trata de un pasado continuo, la acción está vista en su movimiento, en su transcurso, y estaríamos hablando de una acción en el pasado. Para esta acción, pues por supuesto, nosotros estaríamos utilizando diferentes formas en el pasado que expresen esa continuidad de la acción en el pasado. Para el presente tenemos varias formas. Tenemos el uso del will, tenemos el uso del going to, tenemos el uso del presente continuo y tenemos el uso del will y la forma continua en el verbo. El futuro continuo, como se le denomina. Bueno, en estos casos nosotros lo utilizamos para expresar acciones que van a ocurrir con las diferencias que ya le he mencionado en cada uno de esos ejemplos. Veamos entonces el caso de el perfecto, el aspecto perfectivo. Este será el último elemento que nosotros valoremos dentro de esta clase de gramática y que, como ustedes han podido observar y han podido practicar, es un tiempo un poco más complejo. Y decimos un tiempo porque en español normalmente lo asociamos a la expresión del tiempo en el verbo. Entonces, en inglés sí está marcado. Y en inglés hablamos de la categoría aspecto gramatical, que en este caso pues nos está refiriendo al aspecto perfectivo. ¿Qué es lo perfectivo? No es más que aquello que tiene un comienzo y tiene un fin. O sea, siempre que nosotros podamos dar esta idea, pues estaríamos haciendo una expresión completa de la noción del tiempo. Y por ello, entonces, este aspecto se refiere al uso de la forma compleja que ya ustedes conocen, del have, una de sus formas, have, más el verbo en pasado participio, que nuevamente lo vamos a ver, pues el pasado participio, si se trata de un verbo regular, sería aquel que termine en ed, como habíamos explicado para el pasado. Pero si es un verbo irregular, correspondería la forma que está ya establecida para ese tipo de verbo. Por ejemplo, tenemos el verbo conocer, que ya usé, pues en pasado participio no voy a usar know, no voy a usar knew, voy a usar su forma pasada participio. O sea, el participio del verbo que en este caso sería none. Pero hay otros verbos que tienen otra forma. Por ejemplo, send sería sent. Be sería been. En el caso de put sería put. Bien, entonces hay varias formas para encontrar este pasado participio en los verbos irregulares que ya también ustedes estudiaron y estoy seguro que con este review pues podrán rememorar todo aquello que aprendieron en los niveles anteriores. Veamos entonces esto del aspecto en los diferentes tiempos. Primero, first we have the present perfect. The present perfect is when we speak about the present, but the action started in the past. The action started in the past. We say, we use it to talk about a recent action or situation that started at some time in the past. And of course, the effect it's seen at the moment we speak. The case may also continue into the present perfect when the experience is more important than the time. And the time, it's not stated, okay? So you say, I've seen a lot of different movies in the last 5 years. In that case, you said that you have seen, I don't know, thousands of movies, hundreds of movies, or maybe, I don't know, 10, 12, 24 movies in the last 5 years. But those are a lot of different movies in the last 5 years, okay? We have seen that because it started in the past. 5 years from now, if we count back in the time scale, okay, or the timeline. Then we say that there are 5 years from that moment in which we started seeing the movies. We could also say he hasn't seen the new Lord of the Rings movie yet, okay? He hasn't seen the new Lord of the Rings yet. Or we also use it for the present perfect to talk about life experiences. For instance, I've never been to Peru. That started in the past since I was born. And at this moment, I've never gone to that place. Okay? Have you ever gone to Peru? Have you ever gone to Chile? Have you ever gone to Colombia? Who knows? You will tell me in our lesson next Sunday. Well, let's see then the form that we had explained for its use. First, in the affirmative, we say I've or I have, you've or you have. That is the form in present of the verb have. For I, you, we, and they. And we use the form has for the third person singular, only for the third person singular. We say he's, she's, it's, lived. So notice that in both cases we had to use the main verb with its, let's say, past participle. Then, in this case, we only said that the action started in the past and it continued up to this moment in which we are talking. Okay? If it is negative, the only thing we had to do is to add the particle not to the auxiliary have or has. So we say, I haven't lived in Peru. I haven't gone to Peru. Okay? I haven't been to Peru. Or you could say, he hasn't studied that, let's say, grammar example. She hasn't lived in Peru. If we ask a question, we had to use the auxiliary have in the first position, then the subject, and finally the verb in its past participle form. The same if we use the third person singular, but in this case, we are going to use the auxiliary has. We say, has he, has she lived in that place? Well, the short answer for that could be yes, I have. Yes, we have, etc. Or yes, he has. Yes, she has. Because those are short answers, affirmative short answers. Then, if it is negative, we have to say no, as you know, then the subject, and then the form of have that correspond to the subject with not. In that case, you say, no, I won't. Well, no, I haven't. No, you haven't. No, they haven't. Or no, he hasn't. No, she hasn't. No, it hasn't. And for this, let's say, perfective aspect, we are going to use these time phrases. Already, ever, how long, in recent times, just, lately, never, only just, over the last 2 years, recently, since, so far, up to now, yet. Okay, but you know the two that we usually use are since and for, because they are expressing a period of time. Since expresses the moment in which we begin doing the action, and for expresses the direction of this action. Then the present perfect continue will be similar to the present perfect, but in this case, we add the action into its, let's say, continuity, that is into its constant, let's say, repetition in a period of time. We say it, for instance, we use it to talk about an action or situation that was in progress in the recent past. The situation may also continue into the present or have a result in the present. We use the present perfect continuous, not the present perfect, to emphasize the duration of the action. Sorry. Then, these are the examples. I've been working here for months. I am still here. I'm still working here. That's why I use the present perfect, as the action has to do with this moment. Started in the past, but coming into the present, and probably will continue in the future. They've been behaving like this since they arrived. So notice that they've been behaving like this. It's a process. It was a repeated action. It started in the past, it continued in the present, and probably into the future, but up to the moment they arrived, okay? So they've been behaving like this since they arrived. The moment in which they arrived started the action of behaving like this. We can see it now, and probably it will continue. What have you been doing since I last saw you? Well, this is a question, and then notice the structure that we have used. I am going to explain the form right now. She hasn't been working hard enough lately. Or, sorry, I haven't called. I've been working really hard. Well, the form that we use here for the present continuous, the present perfect continuous, it's the subject with the form of the verb have, then being, which is the only form we could use of be after have, and then the main verb with ing. And if it is he, she, or it, you know, we are going to use has. Then being, the only form which is possible, and then the main verb with ing. If it is negative, we are going to add the negative particle, not, to the auxiliary have or has. And then we say the subject haven't been living. Or we say the subject, he, she, or it, hasn't been living. If it is an interrogative question, notice that we start with the auxiliary, have or has, then the subject, then being, and then the main verb. And if you have any other complement, it will be after that. Okay, like for instance, these, let's say, time phrases. To answer these questions, you will follow the auxiliary the person uses, and then you answer with the corresponding person that it was used in the question. Yes, I have, or no, I haven't. That depends if it is positive or negative. The same with the others, the second person or the plural forms. But if it is the third person singular, he, she, or it, we say yes, he has, or she has, or whatsoever. And if it is negative, we say no, it hasn't, or she hasn't. That depends on the person we have analyzed in the question. Okay? But this perfectiveness could be seen in the past as well. For that, we use it to talk about what happened earlier in the past, before a main event. So we say, when Julie saw the animals, that's a main event, she remembered what the trainer has said the day before. Okay? So this is the main event, and this is something that happened before that main event. But it is a past perfect time and aspect, tense and aspect. I have learned Mandarin before I went to Beijing. It means that I went to China, but before I went to China, I learned, I'd learned that language, Mandarin. Okay? Then Mary went to Quito after she visited Santo Domingo. So what happened first? She went to Quito or she visited Santo Domingo? What happened first? First, she had visited Santo Domingo, and second, she went to Quito. Okay? So here you have two different events, and the past perfect is used to talk about the first event that had happened. The form, it's quite simple. We use the form of the verb have, which is for the past, had, in this case, and after that, we use the past participle of the main verb, okay? And then we say, I'd worked hard, or you'd worked hard when the factory was closed, okay? Or when the factory closed. Then, the negative form, as you know, will use the not particle together with the auxiliary, in this case, had. So we say hadn't worked. I, you, she, they, we, it, the cat, the dog, the rock, Peter hadn't worked. So notice that any person will be the same. There is no change according to the person in the verb. They will have the same form. If it is an interrogative question, you use had, then the subject, and then the main verb in its past participle. Again, this is regular, but for an irregular, you have to use the past participle. Then, in a short answer, you say yes, the subject, and had. If it is positive, you say yes, I had. Yes, they had. Yes, she had. Okay? Or if it is negative, you say no, the subject, and hadn't. So you say no, she hadn't. No, we hadn't. Okay? So this is the form we use the structure we use for the past perfect. But there is a past perfect continuous, as we explained for the present. That is a past action, which is perfect with a beginning and end, and then seeing its movement in its progress. So we use it to describe an action that was in progress before or up to the main event in the past. We also use it to talk about how long an action or a series of actions occur in progress. For instance, when Salma arrived, the other actors had already been rehearsing for 2 hours. What happened first? Of course, they had been rehearsing, okay? Because it's the perfect tense we use. And then she arrived. This actress arrived late, okay? In the past. But this action, it's seen in its progress. It happened in its, let's say, progress during a period of time for 2 hours. And the second example, he was tired because he had been traveling for hours. The same, this happened first, and as a result of that, he was tired. But this was for a period of time. Then, the past perfect continuous form, it's analyzed, of course, in this structure. We use had, then been, and then the main verb with ing for the affirmative sentence. If it is negative, we only add the negative form to the auxiliary had. So I, she or he, she, we, etc. hadn't been working. If it is a question, we make the inversion. We use first the auxiliary, then the subject, then being, and finally the main verb. To answer those interrogative questions like, had I been working for years? We can say, yes, I had. Yes, I had been working for years. Or, no, I hadn't, if it is not, if it is a negative answer. Okay, but notice that all the persons, all the possible subjects of a sentence could keep the same structure. There is no change for any of them. Okay, and the time expressions we use here are already, before that, by then, for some time, previously, prior to that time, until then, up to then, and so far, and similar expressions. Future perfect. We could also express perfectiveness with future. Future perfect is used when we talk about an action that's going to be completed at a given time, at a before a moment in which the main action is going to be, let's say, observed or seen. Okay, and we could say they'll have finished. They'll have finished repairing the bridge by next week, which is the action that's going to be happening in the future, finishing doing that, finishing repairing the bridge. In 50 years time, people will have stopped using cash. They are going to use other means, maybe cars, or maybe a kind of equipment, a gadget in which you just pay for something, a product or a service. He won't have finished the work by the weekend. So we know it's very hard, and it was not conceived that he will finish during the week. Okay, so he won't have finished that job the work by the weekend. And will you have sent that email by 5 o'clock? That's a question. So notice that with all of them, we are using the by construction for the future. That's also a characteristic of this tense. And here we have the form that we use for this structure. In the affirmative, the subject, then will, then have, and the past participle. If it is negative, the subject, won't, which is the negative form, will not, have, and then the main verb needs, let's say, past participle. If it is an interrogative question, we will use will, then the subject, then have, and then the main verb in its past participle. And the short answer for that will be yes. I, you, they, it, we, etc. will. Or no, the subject, and then won't. Well, I think this explanation or these explanations about the different tenses, the perfect aspect, and the time expressions will be useful for you to practice and use the right verb in the language. Okay, well, I'll see you in our lesson next Sunday. Bye up to then now. Okay, bye-bye. Going to stop, and you are going to practice these structures, uses of the different tenses in English. Bye.